What's happening? Welcome to another episode of Joelsuf Remembers, where I talk about significant wrestling events, I guess, and reflect on them and stuff like that. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm not really used to it, whatever. Anyways, yeah, so it's been 20 years since Vengeance 2001, and there's a picture of the actual VHS that I actually own. I actually own this on VHS, and it's probably going to be worth a lot of money, like, sooner than later, because of Chris Jericho is running up on his retirement and stuff, so I figure I'll hold on to this until he actually retires from in-ring competition, eventually gets put in the WWE Hall of Fame, which he is going to go back to WWE probably, and he's probably going to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. That's going to happen. Sorry to burst your bubble, guys. That's just how it is. We already know this. He's in AEW now, so he's all elite. Yeah, okay. That's cool, but it's going to come a time where the two organizations are going to work together. When they do, Jericho will be put in the Hall of Fame. That might not be until 2030 or so, but we'll see, Shit. Anyways, yeah. It's been 20 years since this pay-per-view came out. Is it a real significant piece of WWE history? I wouldn't say so, but it is the first time that WWE had an undisputed world champion. So this show came out weeks after the invasion ended. The invasion ended at Survivor Series 2001, and Vengeance 2001 aired on December 9th. So how many weeks between the 18th of November 18th, and December 9th? 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. So the main story going into this pay-per-view was to see, okay, now that the invasion is over, and now we have a WWE champion and we have a world champion. They called it the world champion, whoever had the big gold belt. I think it was Rock who had the big gold belt, and man, did he look amazing with that big gold belt. Really good. And I think Austin was the WWE champion. It was either him or Angle. I know Jericho did not have any of those titles. And so they said, so the main story is, hey, now that, WWE won the invasion war thing, we now need to crown one champion, and that was to be settled at Vengeance 2001. I think the first match was, it was like Austin versus Angle. That was Jericho versus Rock, I think. Something like that. I don't really remember exactly all of it. But yeah, so like with most other Joelsuf Remembers videos, I'll talk about what I was going through personally, my personal life, at around this time, and then I'll go into the actual show. What was I doing in December 2001? I was finishing up my first semester of college. Holy shit. My first ever semester of college, and it was underwhelming, actually, to say the least. It kind of felt like I was literally 13th grade. I'm like, all right, well, because I was going to junior college. I didn't go straight to university. My track record in high school sucked. It didn't suck bad enough to where I couldn't go to university, but it sucked. It sucked bad enough to where I couldn't go to my first choice school. That first choice school being U of Florida. U of Florida, you just needed to be really popular and have decent grades, that kind of stuff, and have okay SATs. Same with Florida State. Same with Central Florida. My second choice was Florida State. My third choice was Central Florida. And then it was either Florida Atlantic, which was one step above the junior college that I was going to. And then the junior college, that was Broward College. So this is in South Florida. The Tri-County area Broward and Miami-Dade and Palm Beach. That's where I was raised. That's where I was at when in the winter of 2001. And so I decided, okay, well, I mean, if I'm gonna be forced into these Bobo college for lack of better terminology, if I was gonna go into these Bobo colleges like Florida Atlantic or Broward, both of those were decent schools. College is college, really. It doesn't really matter. But I wanted to go where all the popular kids from high school were going. So I figured I'd just do my thing at junior college for a little bit, get my associates, then transfer out to university, which is eventually what I did. And I've been talking about that. I think I do talk about that in a couple of other installments of this. But it was my very first semester. I mean, I remember I definitely talked about this in the last Joelsuf Remembers because that was September 11th. But my first semester was winding down, and it was and it was it was underwhelming. I mean, I do remember I wanted to be a lot more involved in like activities and extracurriculars. So I remember I was like a senator on the student government organization or association in SGA, and which was kind of a joke because like the campus that I was going to for my junior college, it had like four campuses. Mine was like the northernmost of all of Broward County, and the really big school, which I eventually did go to take a few classes at, was all the way in Fort Lauderdale. And I lived about a half hour from Fort Lauderdale, but like 15 or so minutes from where I was going to this campus. So there, the student body was pretty small. It was nothing. It was like 1,000, not even, some like very, very little. Not much at all compared to the main central campus of Broward, which was like 10, 12, I think like 15, 20,000 going there at one point. So I was kind of wasting my time, but I kind of got like a good little rush out of it. I'm like, oh, I'm actually doing something cool, and I wasn't doing this in high school, that kind of stuff. So the classes I took were ridiculously easy. Like get 85s in my sleep easy. And it's funny. I ran into, I think it was the semester after. Yeah, it was the semester after where I ran into a couple of girls from my high school who I was like kind of at odds with, and we became friends. But that was during the semester after, which I'll probably be talking about. But that was me. That was what I was dealing with. That was where I was at in my life when this pay-per-view came out. So nothing special, just college freshman stuff. Actually, it was the pay-per-views after this where I would go and watch with my buddies. My buddy Dan started creating a good circle of friends from his job. And we would go to, and one of them would order a pay-per-view, a WWE pay-per-view, and would invite us all to his apartment, his little two-bedroom apartment. And we would all just gather around, about 5 or 6 of us, and watch WWE pay-per-views every month. That started happening at Royal Rumble 2002, which I'll definitely talk about. Actually, I'll probably talk about, Triple H coming back to WWE, coming back from injury on January 7th, 2022. That'll probably be in the next Joelsuf Remembers for sure. And I'll talk about my experiences doing that on that podcast. But for this one, let's go ahead and talk about Vengeance 2001. So the theme song for this pay-per-view was Sinner by Drowning Pool. So WWE was still on a Drowning Pool kick at this time. They played Bodies for SummerSlam 2001, I think. And then they played Sinner for this. And then I think at either WrestleMania 18 or Backlash 2002, they played a song from, I think, Drowning Pool's follow-up record to Sinner. And, like, I think it was, I don't remember the name of the song. The chorus was like, I don't care about anyone else but me. Or something like that. And I forget the actual name of that song. But that was that's further out. Backlash 02 or WrestleMania 18. I think it was WrestleMania 18. I don't remember. So yeah, so the theme song for this was Sinner. And this, this is back when nu metal was the thing. Like, it was all about nu metal. You turn on a rock station and there's some System of a Down playing for you, playing Chop Suey. Hear that about like 8 times every 3 fucking hours. It's almost a rotation everywhere. Freaking that and She Hates Me by Puddle of Mud. What else? Blurry by Puddle of Mud. That's also big nu metal shit. What else? Big nu metal song. Linkin Park in the end. That kind of shit. It's insane. Ugh, nu metal. God, what were we thinking, man? And Stained. It's been a while. What else? Anyways, rantings about nu metal aside, I think the show, if I remember correctly, starts off with I think Albert and Scotty 2 Hotty versus Big Show and Kane for the tag team titles, I think. Oh, I want to just look at the back of the freaking VHS tape. I own it. May as well look at the back of it and see what's up. Yes, I was wrong. So it was the first match was now I remember it. It was Scotty 2 Hotty and Prince Albert versus Test and Christian. Test and Christian just became a tag team after Christian left Edge and stuff like that. I don't remember who won. I think it was probably Hotty. It was probably Scotty and Prince Albert. Had to have been. Let's see. Other matches on here. Ladies title had Trish Stratus versus Jackie Moore. This was when Trish Stratus still wore, she didn't wear the long tights yet. She still wore the really short tights, just showing off her goods everywhere. And Jackie Moore was still this 4'11" brick shithouse of a woman. I really appreciate Jackie Moore's work, and it kind of sucks that she is lost in the fold of the women wrestlers in the early 2000s, because Jackie Moore was having matches with dudes too, being 4'11", 130 pounds of just twisted freaking steel, having matches against, I think she even had a match against Stevie Richards at some point. So when people talk about the women's revolution, the women's evolution, stuff like that of 2016 or whatever, I go, no man, 15 years before, there was even better, women were treated even better because they were having matches against guys, and guys were putting them over. But that didn't happen during this show. This show was just Trish Stratus versus Jackie Moore. I think Stratus had the title, and I think she retained it. Let's see. Rob Van Dam and The Undertaker had a pretty cool hardcore title match. Really weird to see Undertaker in a hardcore title match. This was right after he turned bad. Undertaker, before that match took place, I remember the video package. It had Undertaker ranting about how no one's kissed McMahon's ass more than him. And his experience, being on Team WWE during the invasion, kind of showed that to him. So that shows him in a segment where McMahon does his Kiss My Ass Club. That was a thing that first started I think it started a week after Survivor Series 01. It's really crazy. to think about how fast everything went. And it has like, and it has a segment where McMahon has JR in the ring, and McMahon's like, all right, well, if you're gonna stay here, you gotta kiss my ass. And then Undertaker comes out, and the crowd pops, and Undertaker goes to JR. He says, oh, well, you're gonna kiss his ass, and JR says no. And then Undertaker goes, oh, that means is that because you're better than me? And then that's where Undertaker turns bad, and then it shows like Rob Van Dam like messing with Undertaker and costing him a whole bunch of like, I think costing like a number one contender match for the title or something like that. Yeah, so led to RVD going up against Undertaker for that hardcore title, and it stays in the ring, and it's not like a typical hardcore title match where it has the 24/7 rule and you got a whole bunch of guys like beating each other for the title. No, this was a straight one-on-one match, as I recall. Ends with the finishes Undertaker, I think, choke slamming Rob Van Dam off the stage, and then pinning him to be the one-time hardcore champion. I think he lost it to, I don't know, he must have lost it to somebody. He lost it to Kane, maybe? I don't know who he lost it to. What a wild title that was, the hardcore title. And they were trying to redo it with the 24/7 title, but it's not the same. It really isn't. But that was like, like first, like, I guess it was like the first time like an established WWE guy like really worked with Rob Van Dam. Yeah, you had him versus Austin and Angle and stuff, but here's a real company dude in the Undertaker who has been in WWE now at that time for over a decade, saying, okay, let's see what happens, that kind of stuff. Let's see what this guy can do. So I believe that was like about to turn into a big push for Rob Van Dam, but it never came to fruition, and that sucks. Big Show and Kane were in a tag team match for the tag team titles against the Dudleys. And it's weird because the Dudleys had Stacy Keibler as their valet. It's like, what the fuck? And they're calling her the Duchess of Dudleyville. Okay, really weird combination there, and that was, I guess, that carried over from the Invasion where they paired those two up. It was really strange to see that. I don't remember who won that match, or probably the Dudleys had to have retained, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. Let's see. Edge took on William Regal for the Intercontinental title. I know for a fact, I remember Edge having the Intercontinental title and him retaining it against William Regal. WWE also they were trying to push Edge at this time too, and they probably would have pushed him to be a transitional WWE champion in like 2003 or so, but he got injured right like as 2003 began. I know I'm talking about late 2001, but throughout 2002, you saw Edge in some pretty high-profile matches, and him having the Intercontinental Championship at this time was kind of like WWE saying, yo, man, like, here's this hot young guy. You're going to be seeing a lot more of him in the next 5 years. So, that kind of stuff. And, yeah, so... And now, before I go into the titles for the Undisputed... Before I go into the matches for the Undisputed titles, we'll talk about Jeff versus Matt Hardy with Lita as the special referee. So this is the very first time that Jeff and Matt Hardy had a match against each other. There was a big build to this going into it. Showed Jeff Hardy, taking all those risks. And speaking of Jeff Hardy, I heard that he either got injured or like something happened to him at a house show that caused him to go home and take some time off. I hope he's okay. And I think after that house show, WWE just told Jeff Hardy to be like, yo, take time off, man. We want you performing here. We saw what happened during that house show. I think something happened to him. It wasn't drugs or anything. He was sober when he had that match. I guess it was a few weeks. I think it was a week or so ago. So I hope he's okay. I mean, dude's gonna be 45 next year. How crazy is that? Jeff Hardy's gonna be 45 next year. He was not even 25 at the time of this show's airing. How crazy is that? And Matt Hardy was like not even pushing 30. He was like 27. It's crazy how young these dudes were. And so their build up was about, it revolved around Lita, and Lita was trying to calm both of them down, and you see that in the video package. The video package has almost like a little sit down where they say, "Oh, we've wanted to be WWE guys since we were little kids." I think it does shows footage of them being enhancement talent in the mid 90s, where they were both like in their late teens. It shows footage of them getting the contract in the mail, and they were talking about it, stuff like that. And then it has footage of Jeff costing a match for the brothers, and then Matt costing them a match and stuff like that, and it all just culminates into this one match. And for their very first match against each other, you could tell that, from what I recall, you could tell that it wasn't like that. They didn't have the kind of chemistry that they would later have 8 or so years after, in 2009, when they had a match against each other at WrestleMania 25. You could tell they were just kind of testing the waters out here a little bit. You know what I mean? And they would eventually get back together after Undertaker beats up Jeff a little bit. That would happen, I think, directly on the Raw after this, actually. It would show, Jeff Hardy getting beat up by the Undertaker and Matt, trying to shrug it off, but then being like, "Oh my God, that's my own brother he's beating up. What the hell?" Then they get back together and they mess with the Undertaker a little bit. And that feud would last all the way until, May of 2002. It's crazy. I think Matt wins this match, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, so that was so this match that they had against each other at Vengeance 2001 pretty much walked so that their series of matches at WrestleMania 25 and the Broken Matt versus Brother Nero could all run, that kind of stuff. All right, so now the Undisputed Championship match. So I think it starts off with the WWE Championship match, right? Yeah, it does. With Austin versus Angle, and I think a few segments before it has McMahon going. Oh, actually, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. The very first segment of this entire show was McMahon coming out and saying, "Okay, we're gonna have one champion tonight, and he who laughs last will laugh the loudest. Just remember that." And so that means it sets up. It's like, oh, okay, this guy's got something up his sleeve. And a few other segments in, Angle goes up to McMahon and he says, "I'm gonna win that title for you." And so it's Angle versus Austin for the WWE title, which I think Austin has, and Austin retained that. And these matches aren't all one after the other. It has Austin retaining, and then has a few more matches, and then the last match was Rock versus Jericho for the big gold, and it looks like Rock's about to win. They have a pretty good match because Rock and Jericho always had really good chemistry in matches and in segments together. I I think right before the finish, Angle comes in and costs Rock the match. So now Jericho has the big gold, and then Austin comes out, and Jericho is like, "What the hell?" And so it's Jericho versus Austin to unify the titles. And I think what happens is that Angle costs Austin the match or something like that. Yeah. And then Jericho wins, and Jericho is the unified champion. And then it shows McMahon laughing along with Jericho and stuff like that. And I think JR was calling it, saying that Jericho deserves to be one of the 4 guys, but this is not the way you win it, and stuff like that. So, yeah. So going into 2002, your WWE Unified Champion is Chris Jericho. How crazy is that? And here's the crazier part. So, crazier part is that although Jericho is the youngest of the 4 here, I think he spent the longest time, like, he was, damn it, can't come up with the words. So Jericho was the youngest of the 4. He turned 31, just a few weeks before this show, before Vengeance 2001. I think his birthday is in, like, November. So, yeah, he just turned 31 or so. So, no, he's not the youngest. Rock was the youngest. That's right. But still. But of all the guys, Jericho had either the longest or second longest career, because Austin started in 89. Never mind. But still, this was Jericho's 7th year pro going into this event. So it's crazy how Rock was only he was wrestling since 96, about 5 years. Angle, this was Angle's 3rd year in WWE, and he didn't perform anywhere since before then either. So Angle had the least amount of experience as a wrestling performer. So it's crazy how the guy, the second youngest of the 4, also had the second longest tenure of the 4, with Austin having the longest tenure and stuff like that. So I just found that kind of interesting. Jericho would actually go on to have a pretty lengthy reign. Was he booked real strong? Not really. I mean, he wasn't really booked strong. After Triple H came back, he almost took a back seat to Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, which I always thought was kind of underhanded and stuff like that. But for what it is worth, Jericho held on to that unified title until Mania 18. So that's not bad, you know what I mean? About 100 or so days he kept the title. It's pretty good. It's certainly a lot longer than any of us fans thought, or any fans who knew the background of all these guys thought. Before this pay-per-view came up, going into it, I honestly thought, and I think I watched this scrambled when it came out. You could do that back in the day. You could just have cable, and you could put on a pay-per-view or a DirecTV, or not DirecTV, a viewer's choice channel, or even pornography, and watch it scrambled with with the picture all messed up, but you could hear it perfectly. So you could listen to WWE pay-per-views as if you're listening to it on the radio. So I did that with this, and I was as the matches were going, I'm all right, well, Austin's gonna probably win, and it's gonna set up another Austin versus McMahon feud and stuff like that. And no, it was Jericho, and I was what the fuck? And I remember thinking at the time, when Jericho won the title, I'm he's gonna keep it for a day. Rock is probably gonna beat him for it on Raw the next day, which almost happened. Jericho, I think, had to defend that title I think, against Rock in a cage match on the Raw after. But some quick thoughts about Jericho's Unified title reign. It was overdue. I thought that Jericho should have had a similar cup of coffee with the title, with the WWE title, in, I'd say, like 2000. Should have just had like a little transitional reign, a month or two, something like that, and then to get beat back, and then get beat by Triple H or so for it, because Triple H was just running WWE in 2000. God, that was ridiculous. I mean, it would get worse. Evolution. I'll talk about that too, I guess. I could talk about that. But that'll be like later on. That's not going to be now. But yeah, I mean, and going into WrestleMania 18, it did kind of feel similar to CM Punk's WWE title run a decade ago. It did kind of feel that Jericho, as the unified champion, took a backseat to a lot of stuff. It definitely took a backseat to Triple H's feuds with Stephanie McMahon. It for certain took a backseat to Hogan versus Rock versus Hogan at Mania 18. In fact, Mania 18 was like the first once in a lifetime kind of deal where you had Rock versus Hogan. Like that, you would have never think to have happened. I'll talk about WrestleMania 18 when that happens, because that's one of my favorite WrestleManias ever. Like, it really is. Like, it has to be. So yeah, and even the stuff that Jericho did, going into WrestleMania 18, I don't think he defended the title like clean a lot, but that didn't really matter because he was a bad guy anyways. So that's neither here nor there. But would it be better if one of the other three guys won that unified title? If Rock won it, that would have been very predictable. Probably would have turned him bad right then and there. He could have started going into the Hollywood gimmick right then and there. Austin, I mean, that would have been also pretty predictable. That probably would have made him happier. And it would have probably kept him in WWE for a little longer. If Angle won it, well, that would have been like, because he was like McMahon's he was McMahon's buddy anyways. So that would have been just another Corporation 3.0 with Kurt Angle now. You know what I mean? So given those kind of paths, I would say that like Jericho was the right guy to win on Vengeance 01. And he definitely deserved it, in my opinion, because of his work before in Stampede, before he went to ECW, and his little 1 year tenure in ECW and WCW and stuff like that, and just the way that he struggled to fit in at first when he first came to WWE 2 years before this show. Like, given all that stuff he had to endure, I think he was the right guy to win the title at Vengeance 01 for sure. So, yeah, it was really cool to see that, because I'd been following Jericho since I saw him in ECW TV in 1995. So, and then in 96 when he went to WCW, and then when he came to WWE, I was like, oh my God, that kind of stuff. So it was really cool to see that. Really, really cool to see that. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this episode. Next episode is going to be about Triple H returning to WWE from injury, January 7th, 2002. Who could ever forget that? Man, I'm going to actually watch that right now. I'm going to fire it up on YouTube and see if I can look it up. Watch it right now. It'd be pretty cool. It's probably on WWE's YouTube channel, to be really honest. Anyways, thank you for listening, and have a good one. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.